Hello, dear friends. Over the years, I have had to answer a lot of questions that people ask. And since the beginning of this channel, a lot of different questions have also been coming. And what question would you like to ask today? Recently, many people are very often interested in the question of karma. What is it? How it arises and how it still affects people's lives. Yes, indeed. Such questions are very often asked by people. I must say that the very word karma scares a lot of people and believe that it is something so sinister, frightening. But in fact, everything is much simpler. The very concept of karma is the law of life. It is not the law of punishment in any case. It is the law of education. It is thanks to this law that people improve themselves, gaining diverse experience. They learn to build relationships competently, to build their lives competently. Here let's analyze such a small example. A person has done some kind of act. Naturally, he does this act in interaction with other people, and then a whole chain of subsequent events begins to drag on. And it is very important how a person directly acted in this situation. If he did well, accordingly a chain of further relationships with other people is built up, and something positive begins to happen in a person's life. If a person has acted wrongly or unfairly towards someone, then accordingly resistance against him may arise. Some additional situations may arise. That is again, whole chains of subsequent events arise related to this particular human action. And in this life and in many other lives, a person has already had a lot of all kinds of situations in which he acted in one way or another. Accordingly, based on this, a person builds up his entire subsequent life. Because one situation pulls another situation, that situation pulls the next situation, and so the vital tangle accumulates and winds up. And then a person already has to, if he has made a lot of mistakes, gradually unwind this tangle. Unwind and perform completely different actions when he begins to understand how to properly build relationships in this or another situations. Therefore, it is not necessary to be afraid of this word. It is to learn, and not to be afraid to learn, to accumulate experience in building relationships. It is the competent building of relationships. I can draw attention to the fact that in various yoga schools, in various Eastern traditions, a lot of attention is paid to the so-called process of doing. Or it may also be called yoga of doing, or karma yoga. Maybe all this refers to such a period of human life and development when he really learns to build relationships competently and perform positive actions. And the more he commits these positive actions, the more the balance of the scales is overbalanced in the direction of good. And as some say, the last judgment will come and they will weigh on these scales what a good person has done and everything that has done evil. And by what will drag on these scales, and he will be judged. But first of all, a person judges himself. And precisely by building relationships with others, he builds his destiny, he builds his life. And how this life will turn out for him, of course, mainly depends on himself. Here, of course, there are other points that seriously affect a person, but they relate more to those people who have already made some more progress in their evolution. For an ordinary person who is busy with his daily routine, it is this approach to the concept of karma that is absolutely fair. Everyone reaps the fruits of their labors. Good deeds draw good consequences. A person develops a good life. Bad deeds lead respectively to subsequent events of a negative order, from which then the person himself actually suffers. Therefore, when a person really learns to build his own life independently and competently, he will stop suffering. And he will have exactly good life situations. Therefore, I draw your attention to the fact that this is a teaching law. And here too, the most important thing in this law is that when a person acts in some way towards others, he doesn't think much about whether it is good or bad. Yes, here he did as he wanted, but the law of karma says that what a person sent to the outside world, then accordingly he will definitely return. That is what a person has done in relations to others. He must experience on himself. If he has done a good deed, the good will return to him. If a bad deed, then accordingly he will feel this attitude on himself. And then maybe it will be much more clear whether it is good or bad. So this bad thing will come back to you. The same boomerang law. Therefore, if a person wants to improve his life, then accordingly he should try to do the right things, to show his best qualities, which he has already acquired by this time, and try to correct his mistakes. While again, there should be no self-eating in a person, because otherwise he will waste time on this very flagellation, instead of really thinking about how to do the right thing, how best to do it, or anyway again the same situation will be repeated. And as I have already drawn attention to this in previous videos, that a person is frankly trained. He is passed through a circle of similar situations so that he learns to do the right thing in these situations, learns to show the right quality in these situations, and a circle of other situations begins, which are repeatedly scrolled again until a person learns to competently act already in these situations. And while he is learning, accordingly, he must work out the negativity that he commits. These are the processes of his learning. Therefore, as I usually emphasize, don't be afraid to live. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. The most important thing is if you really understand what your mistake is, so that you can consciously correct something in yourself, and in a similar next situation, you could already do more correctly. Then you will not spend in time to engage in self-flagellation. Oh, I'm like this. I can't build relationships. I don't know how to do anything. I'm generally a bad person. It is useless. It is a waste of time. And here is an analysis of what happened, how it happened, whether I can do better in a similar situation. If I can, that I should do better in this next situation. And then, indeed, we become masters of our lives. We stop suffering, because we ourselves recognize the created situations that lead us to this suffering. And we stop creating situations in which other people suffer from us. And then our life begins to change fundamentally. And here, once again, I will remind you of what Jesus said at the time. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. You want people to act well towards you. If you also act well towards others, then the same good will come to you according to this law of the boomerang. You will experience it on yourself. This is very important to understand in order to competently build your life and relationships with others. In this case, there is nothing to be afraid of this word. What is karma? This is the school of life that teaches us. We must memorize these lessons, assimilate these lessons. As a result of learning, we really gradually become the creators of our lives. This is what I want you to learn well, and that it helps you in life.